is the converting the ER diagram of this one to the relational schema diagram. And you see probably it's problem here. Anyway, okay, so main part is how to address the problem of the here, right? So let me explain about that. So this is the ternary relationship with a weak entity. So to find the primary key of the port visit, we need to use the identifying relationship, that is a ship underbar S underbar port. Okay. So about how to convert the ternary relationship. So we can use one relation for ship underbar S underbar port with the primary key of this. However, to get the primary key of this one needs the help of the S name and the P name. So, which means the primary key of this is the S name, P name, and start date. Also, this is a weak entity. So, to get the primary key of the port, you need to help of the identifying relationship, that is the state country name. Okay, let's say this is a SC name. So SC name plus P name plus S name plus start date is the primary key of this one, and also primary key of this one. And you can see it's a minimum 1, maximum 1, right? So by following the rule of mapping, it is like this one. I change it. So we can have the ship underbar at underbar port, primary key combination of the 3, okay? Right? Then port underbar visit is plus and date. But their participation is minimum 1, maximum 1. Actually, they are same. We don't have to keep separately. So we can combine this one and this one into one. So that is the reason that when you see the previous homework, the solution, it doesn't show this one or this one this time. So I combine these two with the ship underbar at underbar port. Doesn't matter which name you are going to use. However, if this is not the minimum 1, maximum 1, actually that doesn't make sense because it's an identifying relationship. For the identifying relationship, in terms of min-max notation, this should be 1. Okay? But in general, if this is not the weak entity, which means it's a ternary relationship, in case of a ternary relationship, you need to create the relation, and 3 one-to-many relationship. Okay? So that is the solution of the question number 1 of the homework 4. Any question? Also, another thing you can consider in this, the mapping, you can see the most of the primary key is the composite primary key, which is not good for performance later. Also, this is not easy to understand. So many of the real database use the sequential number to make the primary key. Instead of the composite primary key, we can use the PID, something like that, instead of this one. So we can keep this attribute with another. The key is just a sequential number. Okay? So that is the reason when you see the real database, you can see a lot of number or ID, okay, instead of such a composite primary key. It's for better performance. However, because of that, it is not easy to manage the sequential number. We will see later why it's not easy to maintain such a sequential number. Okay. Also, we have the composite prime the foreign key. For example, this one, P name plus SC name depends on the P name underbar SC name port. Actually, SC name is referring the SC name of the state underbar country. So it doesn't matter. Actually, it's matter. It matter is problem if you separate the P name refer the port name and the SC name directly SC name. It is possible, but their meaning is a little bit different. Okay, you may realize. So for example, it's a combination. After combining P name plus SC name, it has the meaning, which means port name plus SC name, state country name. For example, we have the Bridgeport in Connecticut. There might be another Bridgeport, okay, in other state. For let's say the California has the Bridgeport also. So Bridgeport plus the California, Bridgeport plus the Connecticut are different. However, if you refer separately, P name is a Bridgeport and the SC name is for only the state, it's a different meaning. Okay, so you should be careful. It depends on the requirement. Here, I try to use the combine, the composite, the primary foreign key. Any question? That's the way of studying. Okay, so let's continue. In the last exercise lab, you already learned the several basic, the structured query languages, so it's not very difficult to catch up the chapter 4 and 5. So I'd like to, because we already covered the relational algebra, so actually I got 3 layers, my lower body, and 4 layers upper body. It's very hot in this room. It's record high, record low temperature. So, very hot in this room. Okay, so we started to create the database. So with the create table. Did you create the table in your last exercise lab? So yeah. I think that you already did half of that, half of the SQL, structured query language. But the syntax that you learned in your last exercise, even in this the lecture, is just part of, it's a core part of the syntax. If you want to know the details, syntax of the creating data, not just the creating table, any syntax of the structured query language, you'd better refer the manual or reference the book. Okay. So for example, create the table is 2 or 3 pages long. There are a bunch of other options, so but which mostly not used. But this is just basic the syntax. So basic syntax is the so intuitively you can understand, like for example, create a table and table name. It's not case sensitive, but usually we use the such a the upper the capital letter, but not lowercase. But it doesn't matter. In database, it's saved as the capital letter. But you'd better remember what is the reserved word. So it's the same as the other languages that you are going to learn. Whenever you learn the new programming language, you should know what is the reserved word, which may not be used for your variable. Like the department is not the reserved word, so you can use it for your table name. And it's there is a parenthesis. So one more important thing is the SQL language end with semicolon. The semicolon means it's the end of the statement. Okay, then when you, for example, when you are using the structured SQL, like this one, you can enter, right? So first, what is this? In your last class, when you learn the SQL, when you test the SQL, what is this one?
SQL plus.
It's a SQL plus. SQL plus is it's a application program for what? To run your SQL code, structured query language. So this is a program that can, using that, a user can submit the structured query language SQL to the server, database server. Okay? At that time, so when you use the semicolon and enter, that means this query will be submitted to the server. Okay? So that SQL plus is only for Oracle database. You cannot connect the Informix database. Informix provide their own application program that is called the DB Access. DB2 has their own, which is DB2. MySQL has its own. What is that? MySQL. Okay? So each DBMS provide their own such an application program to access the database. So you can use this SQL plus when you are using the Oracle database. Okay? So then we can submit. So end of your statement should be with the semicolon. And inside we have the name of column, name of attribute. Where can you find such a name of column? From the relational schema diagram. Okay, you can just we will see the data type later. Okay, then these two are the mandatory requirements. Then if there is any constraint, you can add. And comma will be separator between the column. Very simple. So you can create it. There is another way to create the table. So in this case, the main difference between this one and previous one is after last the column, we have one more, the comma, then followed by primary key. So if you wanna, there are two different ways. First, you can create without primary key. SQL allow the table, creating table without primary key. What about the relational database model? No. Relational data model itself does not allow the table without the primary key, but for the practical reason, SQL language allow creating table without primary key. Later, if we want to add the primary key, how can you add the primary key? At that time, we can modify the table. Unfortunately, we do not use modify or update. Instead, we can use alter table name, then add primary key and primary key syntax like this one, number. Very simple. The details of the syntax you can find from the manual. Okay? So there are two different ways. And similarly, unique. Which column can be unique? Which column?
The composite.
Composite? How many primary key in the table? Only one. How many candidate key in the table? It can be one, it can be two, it can be three, whatever. Okay? It depends on your design. Okay? Only one among that will be primary key. So if that is not selected, if the candidate key is not selected as a primary key, it's still unique. Okay? Why the unique or candidate key is important in database design? Why? That's the most important thing actually.
To make it easy retrieval?
Yes. What is the main purpose of using database? We want to retrieve the data very fast. If that is slow, just throw away. Okay? You don't have to use the database if that is slow. We want to access data very fast, efficiently. What is the best way? Using key. Okay? Also, unique key is the same, almost the same as the primary key. Unfortunately, it's not selected as a primary. Still, the using unique key is important to access the data very fast. So that is the reason we try to keep unique key. And also we have the foreign key, referential integrity, one of three important. The characteristic of the relational model, manager social security number depends on social security number. Okay? What if you type this syntax as it is and enter with the SQL plus? Can you create the DPT table or not? What happened? Any problem? First, any problem in terms of syntax? No problem. It's perfect. So, supposed to be run without any problem, but as she mentioned, it will not be created. Why? We should have the employee table first. Okay? So that is the problem. For example, we have the create table, employee, that foreign key. Something employee has the DNO. Okay? Reference, DPT, D number. That is true. Like the employee DPT, right? We cannot create a table. So how can you address such a problem? You can create the table without foreign key. That's the frequently happen mistake for beginner. Okay, I cannot create a table with a foreign key. Professor Lee mentioned the foreign key is very important, but I cannot create because you cannot create the table with the foreign key directly. So first you can create the table without foreign key, then later you can add foreign key by alter table. Okay, so that is another thing you can keep your mind. Okay, data type. Data type is the same as the other programming languages, but slightly different. For the number, we have the integer or int float, it supports a float, and also decimal. But such a float level is not precise as the other programming language. Okay? So somebody said the precision is not. So for example, it's 0.00000001 at the time. Their summation may be slightly different. So it's not recommended to use for scientific data like the precision, the decimal point 10 to the minus 32 or 34 at the time may not work. So you need to check the each dBms, how much precise for floating point. Well, decimal is a very simple, easiest way to use the number. You can provide the length of digit and the precision, so you can easily. Character. We have the character. Then what is this? Variable character and variable character 2. So first, what is the difference? Character and variable character.
One is fixed.
Character, when we store the data in terms of a three schema architecture, we have the external level, conceptual level, internal level. Internal level determine the internal data structure. At that time, character 10 byte means it will reserve 10 byte. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No matter what size of data you insert. For example, LEE. Even though it's a 3 byte or 10 byte will be used as this character. On the other hand, variable character, 10 byte, it will use only as needed, like the only 3 byte. first.
So it's dynamic.
Yes, dynamic. Okay. Then, if somebody update list, then increase. Okay, that is the variable character. So in database, we prefer to use variable character. Okay. Then, what is a variable character and variable character 2? Any difference?
Is it two-dimension?
Difference? No? Same? It can be yes, it can be no. So why don't you find any different? Why? We have the variable character and variable character 2. I'm going to ask a couple of students next class, next Tuesday. If you cannot answer, it's marked as the no homework. Okay? So why don't you search? What is the difference? Variable character and variable character 2. Anyway, their lengths will be dynamically changing. So in database, we prefer to use variable character rather than character. Character can be used for fixed size of data almost, like the social security number. Even though that is number, which is not the number, it can be considered as a character. So we use the character or 9 byte. So social security number is 9 byte. So we use the character 9, something like that. Okay, then in addition to such a popular numeric and the character data, we have the binary data. We can keep the binary data. So you probably heard about the LOB, large object, the binary. So if that is for the binary data, BLOB or character data, the CLOB, and so it's a blob, not binary. The large object blob. Okay, it's a kind of the chunk. Okay, and we have the Boolean true or false, but in database we have one more. That is null. Okay, which is different from other programming languages. So keep your mind. So true or false and null. Null means doesn't exist. Okay. One of the benefits of using the database is such a handling date and time. So date is YYMMDD and time is it's up to the millisecond. So the precision is a millisecond. It's very easy. Also, you can manipulate the time. You can actually add 1 plus 1 day plus 1 hour. It's very simple. When I learned the programming language the first time, it's almost 25, 30, 27 years ago. Okay, with the C program language, I still remember the first term project was to implement period function. Period function, it looks like the simple, but not that simple. Why? You need to consider leap year. Every 4 years, that's it? No, every 100 years is not the leap year. That's it? No, every 400 years is also leap year, and every 1600 years. So not easy to calculate the period of 2 days. Okay. But in database, it's very simple. So you can calculate the very easily how many days between 2 date and time. Okay. Also timestamp, you can combine date and time. And also it supports the user-defined type, which is not very practically used. Okay. One of the reasons the user-defined type is to address the problem of the relational database model. So, which language do you prefer? Java is object-oriented language, right? It's based on the OOP concept, right? So you can define your class as a data type. So you don't have to worry about too much when you make the structure of your data. What about the relational database? Is it based on the object-oriented concept? Absolutely not. It's a totally different concept. All the other modeling, the software engineering, and the program language, even computing architecture change into the object-oriented concept, except the database model. So it has been criticized a lot. why database is not changing? Why it's not changing? It's a kind of cartel in big company. So Informix, Oracle, Microsoft, IBM, they shared all the market in the database based on what? Relational database model. So they don't want to change it, the structure of the market. Okay, they want to keep their market big pie. Okay, because they can make the money without changing. It's risky if they change the model into the object-oriented database. No. So, however, the people want to use such an object-oriented concept. So to address that one, they sometimes add object-oriented concept. So that is the user-defined type. One of them is a user-defined type, but it is not frequently used. So sometimes you can see the ORDBMS. What does it mean? Object relational databases. But there is no such a concept. It's only from the company. And to claim, so their database support the object-oriented concept, OOP concept, they said the ORDBMS because of such a functionality which is not frequently used. Okay. When you drop the table, drop table name. Okay. Always end with semicolon. Sometimes you cannot delete, drop the table if there exists the data or any constraint. So, however, so if you want to drop anyway, so you can use the cascade. Drop the table, cascade option. You can find the details option. When you modify the structure of the table, you can use the alter table command. Okay. For example, this one, add column. Add column means it's changing the structure, which is not recommended. Okay, if you really want to change the data structure, the many of the databases, the database administrator suggest drop the table and create the table and insert the data again. Even though this is possible.
Why?
Why? That's my question. Why?
Is it going to make the retrieval harder? If you're going to have like...
User may not fear such a difference sometimes, but changing the data structure of changing the column, adding the column or drop the column is a huge change in database. Actually, which is not allowed until, for example, in Oracle 8, 9, they didn't allow. Because it may affect a lot, not only just the performance, also about the data structure itself. So, if you add and drop the table a lot, it's not like the Excel file. Okay? Their structure is more complicated. So, they cannot guarantee the consistency of the data. So still, many of the database administrators suggest when you need to change the data structure, you'd better drop the table and create the table again. Okay. So this is the pretty much the full, not full, but the details, the syntax of the creating table. You can understand. There is a primary key and unique key and foreign key, but in the foreign key we have the more option. On delete, set default. On update, cascade. Can you guess what's the meaning of that? Before that, yes, question?
Yes. Let's say that I want to drop a column, and
Column,
that column contains the primary key.
Yes.
Can I do it?
No.
Okay.
At that time, you need to drop the primary key, then drop the column. So that is another reason. You'd better, when you change the importance of the data structure, but sometimes, so you can add the column which is not frequently used, that may not affect, at the time you can just add. Okay. What about this one? What does it mean? This is the syntax for the foreign key. This means in case the delete the data, delete of what? Manager social security number. What happened? The employee. So if I draw the ER diagram for this is a DPT. This is the not ER diagram. Relational schema diagram. Employee. It has the SSN and DPT. The key is primary key is a D number, and this is the MGR, manager social security number. Depends on this. So for example, we have the 111 and 111 here. So 111 is the employee, and 111 is the manager of department number 1. At that time, what if this one is deleted? There is no reference data. Okay, it doesn't make sense. At that time, what will be your option in case deleted? So option is set default. So when you create the table of the DPT, so you can specify default value. Default is 000000009 digit, something like that. Okay, you can specify the default value and it will be set as a default. What about update? So this is wrong. Social security number is supposed to be 112. So there's no 112. Cascaded, it can be updated automatically. So that is the option. Is it frequently used? Actually, not much used. Why? It's very complicated, but I strongly suggest to use this one if your data structure, data model is correct. Okay? Otherwise, if you allow such an option, for example, last week I had a pop-up quiz in my operating system class. So many of the students who missed the class could not take the exam and missed the attendance. So one student come in and ask any excuse or any other word. If I try to allow personally, but if I allow the one student and many of other students ask me any exception, any excuse. Okay, so I try to keep my policy. Okay, as a rule. Same thing. If you allow without such a policy or rule, it will be very, very hard later. There are many other cases, okay, that disobey the rule of your database. Okay, so that is even though sometimes